What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to do a presentation on performance nutrition at the Division II level. So let's get right into it. So why is it important? Performance nutrition, it helps our athletes to perform at their very best. If they're fueling adequately, they're fueling right, they're going to be able to perform on the field in both practice and in competition. Helps them recover better, which kind of feeds into better performance, and then just giving them good habits, not only for their college career, but hopefully to live healthy lifestyles once they graduate from college. So when talking about pre-exercise nutrition, so what they should eat and drink before, how they should fuel before, hydration is obviously always going to be important. A simple, algorithm for hydration would just be the color of someone's urine. Don't need to get super fancy with it. Ideally, the color of the urine would be like a light lemonade type of color. Don't need it to be completely clear, but obviously we don't want dark urine, so that's an easy way for athletes to be able to tell if they're actually hydrated or not, just drinking to thirst and then monitoring their urine color. 2 to 4 hours before exercise, whether it's training or competition, obviously want to have a carb-heavy meal, like a carb-rich meal, to top off those muscle glycogen stores. Those are going to be our fuel for exercise. We're going to have that about 2 to 4 hours before the game or before the practice. Don't want to have it super quick right before the game or practice, 2 to 4 hours before, and then 30 to 60 minutes before is really about personal preference. They want to make sure that they avoid excessive fullness or hunger or stomach distress right before in the 30 to 60 minutes leading up to a game or a practice. But if someone's still a little bit hungry, they should have another carb and protein-based snack, something that's quickly digesting usually and is easy on the stomach, maybe like some sort of fruit or even like a Rice Krispie treat or something like that. During practice, intra-competition nutrition, obviously not feasible for all sports. If you're running a race, you're obviously not going to be able to consume food or drink if you're running on the track. But in training and during practice and a lot of other sports, this is definitely feasible. So goals are to maintain hydration levels, as we talked about earlier, and then replenish the carbs, which is going to be the fuel that we're using during exercise, whether that be endurance events like cross country or even like strength and power sports like football. Those are going to be our fuel that's lost during practice and games, so we want to try to replace that. An easy way to replace that, really practical, would be in consumption of something like a Gatorade or a carbohydrate gel filled with electrolytes, quick carbs to replace those glycogen stores. 1 to 2 hours, 30 grams an hour is probably good. That's just only about 1 bottle of Gatorade. And then 3 to 4 hours plus, you're talking probably closer to 2 bottles of Gatorade. And some other halftime snacks that could be feasible would be bananas, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, Rice Krispie treats, fruit snacks, just quick digestion carbs that can fuel the athletes during the game. So it's been found to carbohydrate ingestion during practice and games has been found to enhance exercise capacity, so maybe they won't get tired quite as quickly. And like I stated, just the equivalent of 1 to 2 Gatorade bottles for up to 4 hours of exercise. It's a very practical, low-cost fueling solution during games. After the game, just as important as before or during, we've seen that a combination of both carbohydrates and protein is best for optimal recovery, better than just carbohydrates alone. Sooner is generally better, although once was touted the anabolic window of having to consume carbs and protein immediately after a workout session is largely a myth. There are no benefits to not consuming something right after exercise, so sooner is usually better. Usually would say within 30 minutes of post-exercise. A 4 to 1 carb to protein ratio has been found to be the best, which just happens to be about the same ratio as chocolate milk. Again, another very low-cost solution, trying to ball on a budget here. It's good for resynthesizing that glycogen that we lose during exercise and the protein to help with that muscle tissue repair. Meal frequency, as far as meal frequency goes, our athletes should try to avoid long periods without eating. They should not go more than 3 to 4 hours without having something to eat, especially when it comes to carbs and protein. Muscle protein synthesis, which is what allows athletes to recover and come back bigger, faster, stronger, usually stays elevated for about 3 to 5 hours after ingesting some protein. So athletes should have a protein-based meal or snack every 3 to 4 hours or so. And consistent meal schedules can also help with hunger levels. Obviously, we don't want athletes to be hungry during the day, especially when they're in class, not being able to focus. So that helps with satiety. But at the end of the day, nutrient timing and meal frequency really don't matter a whole lot if the athlete's not consuming overall adequate calories and macronutrients. If they're consuming not enough food in general, it doesn't really matter when they eat. So consistent meal times are definitely super important. Also, more meals a day can make it easier to maintain and gain weight. If someone needs to gain weight, it's probably easier for them to eat 5 or 6 smaller meals throughout the day versus 3 huge meals. That's just going to make it tougher on them. And it also ensures that blood sugar and glycogen stores can stay consistent energy levels throughout the day. Supplements versus food. So supplements at any level are just that. They're there to supplement a good diet, a good balanced diet, and should not be emphasized over food at the Division II level or really anywhere else, in my opinion. Overall adequate intake of calories is going to be key, but some efficacious supplements that are useful and could be considered for use include creatine monohydrate, vitamin D, and then caffeine. Those are some pretty low-cost ones. While caffeine is on the banned substances list for the NCAA, technically, you would have to consume quite large amounts in a short period of time in order to exceed that limit. So athletes should be good to consume these supplements. They've been found to be efficacious. And as far as endurance sports versus strength and power sports, for the most part, with the exception of ultra endurance events, which we don't usually have at the college level, carbohydrates are going to be the main fuel source for all types of athletes. Generally, for endurance athletes, maybe a little bit more carbs and slightly less protein. A little bit on the other side for strength and power athletes, football, basketball, etc. More protein and slightly less carbs. But both are definitely important for both sports, so they can't be taken for granted. Little caveat as far as weight class sports, such as gymnastics or wrestling, where people are trying to maintain a certain body weight or a weight class that maximizes their relative strength and power, consuming greater amounts of protein has been shown to help maintain lean muscle mass, even in the face of a caloric deficit, which is often prevalent throughout these sports. So if a wrestler is trying to lose weight for a competition, still trying to keep protein levels as high as they can to maintain some of that muscle mass that they've probably built in the off season is probably best. Also want to focus on hydration. I know water cutting is very prevalent, but we want to try to stay as hydrated as we can so once they weigh in, they're not behind the ball on that. And then a consistent eating schedule, like I said earlier, has been shown to help with hunger. Obviously, weight class sports usually deal with a lot of hunger, so eating on a consistent schedule, even if they are consuming less calories, will probably be beneficial. Some practical takeaways from all this include just making sure that our athletes eat every 3 to 4 hours, carbs and protein, consuming adequate carbs and protein before practicing games, consuming fast carbs such as Gatorade, fruits like bananas, or like a Rice Krispie treat. Fruit snacks are all very cheap, affordable sources of quick carbs that can fuel us during games and practices. If we're able, consuming carbs and protein post-exercise in the form of chocolate milk or even like a protein powder would be a good substitute with some fruit to have some protein and some carbs there. And then just eating enough throughout the day to support individual goals. Obviously, we have a lot of different sports. Some may need to gain weight, lose weight, maintain, just knowing their goals and prioritizing quality food over supplements always. Here's some of my references if you want to check out any of the readings. Thank you for watching. I hope this was informative.